No air show or World War II film would be complete without one of the best Allied fighters of all time, the P-51 Mustang, Cadillac of the skies. Alistair Kent of the Old Flying Machine Company and Nigel Lamb have been flying this warbird for the company over the last few years and have been delighting crowds of spectators and film audiences wherever they appear. The original Mustang was built by North American to a British specification in 1941. The first models were powered by the Allison engine, which did not perform well at the increasingly higher altitudes the British were having to fight the German Luftwaffe. An inspired suggestion to use the proven and more powerful British Rolls-Royce Merlin engine and a modified fuselage and cockpit produced the war-winning aircraft we know today, the Mustang P-51D.
Notice carefully when a Mustang takes off, when it's flying very slowly, flying in this sort of attitude. And that's because the wings aren't giving as much lift after takeoff as they would do in a Spitfire. And this thing flies like a bomber until it gets up around 200 or 300 miles an hour, gets up off the step.
The aircraft proved itself well in battle against the ferocious German Me-109s and Focke-Wulf 190s. But what assured it of a place in history books was its ability to have drop tanks fitted and so increase its range. This was vital for the American bombers, who dropped their deadly cargoes in daylight raids over German targets and sustained very heavy losses at the hands of the Luftwaffe. The appearance of the little friends with the bombers drastically cut the number of crew casualties.
First of all, it looks good, okay, to have things hanging. Nigel came along and said, we're doing, however many hours flying, we've got all this drag, let's take them off, because it's using fuel. So we took them off last year. Made no difference at all to the speed, to anything, quite strange, just made no difference to stalling characteristic. So we thought, right, we'll put them back on. And for film jobs, you've got to have them.
Alistair's friend and warbird pilot Lee Proudfoot talks us through the Mustang routines with the Old Flying Machine Company as we join Nigel Lamb taking the P-51 to the skies as part of the Breitling Fighters formation display at Duxford.
Obviously you can't see over the nose, so if you just taxi blindly forward and there's something there, you're going to hit it because you can't see it. You probably can't see about sort of 45 to 60 degrees of forward vision. You can't see, which is why we weave the aeroplane to either side so you can see what you're doing. And of course, as you're moving, your actual eyes are working harder and will pick up movement or an aeroplane in front of you. On the takeoff, Ray would be leading the Spitfire, and in this particular case, Nigel's leading the Corsair. They'd both line up on the runway. Nigel would line up on the downwind side so the Corsair doesn't get any prop wash off the Mustang. And as they line up to take off, Nigel would just make sure Cliff's ready. Cliff would give him a nod or a thumbs up, and then Nigel would just nod his head, put the power up, and off they'd go. And it isn't a lot of power all at once. It's going to be a lot of gradual, probably put the power up to about 30 inches we generally use, 25, 30 inches on the brakes. He'll give a head nod, release the brakes, and then the rest of the power will slowly come on.
And displaying the aircraft in a four-ship routine is a testament to the planes and pilots.
Here they come in from the right, the Spitfire, the Mark 9, the North American Mustang, the P-51 and the Corsair.
The whole thing about formation flying is looking at the airplane that you're formating on. You are not looking at the front. Your whole datum now to flying is not the horizon, the sky, the earth, the cloud, nothing. The only datum you're now looking at is Ray in the Kitty Hawk. So whatever he's doing now, you have to match, and you have to make whatever control inputs you need to do that. From a piloting point of view, control-wise, power-wise, there isn't a lot of movement going on. All we're doing now is looking at Ray. I'm, as a pilot, not interested in whether we're vertical, we're pointing down, we're upside down. All I'm now looking at is Ray, but I know as we're getting slow over the top, my control inputs are going to be a lot more to maintain station, because obviously the airplanes are slowing down now, but we're still carrying a lot of power. So this is where the torque comes in.
Even with our camera guy in a rudimentary back seat, the performance of the Mustang is spellbinding. When the formation breaks for the famous tail chase, replicating the life and death struggles between opposing aircraft of World War II, the Mustang shows its dogfighting ability, and a characteristic scream of air across the 6 Browning machine gun holes merges with the powerful growl of that Merlin engine. Alistair is now the main pilot for the Mustang, and in common with other Warbirds pilots, shares a great affection and respect for the machine and its history.
One of the nicest highs is when you organise an event which has got some sentiment behind it for the people. Like we did the Mustang yesterday going off to Cresswell, and there was a memorial tribute to the American pilot. And that gives you a nice warm fuzzy feeling, and particularly when we speak to them and they'll tell us how happy they were to do that. So you know, that is a definite high.
A Warbirds pilot has to constantly check the machine, the routines, the flight plan, and get stuck into all the routine duties that help keep these Warbirds flying. The P-51 had a large part to play in the Allied victory in the skies, and the sacrifice of those who flew it and those who depended upon it for protection is not forgotten. Keeping these planes flying and in the consciousness of the public is still very much down to a few brave souls with nerves of steel, skill and character.
It's the howl from the over the gun, and it's very, very notable. It's from the cockpit, you just hear it. Hard, you hit the ground, you hit on the end.
As they line up to take off, Nigel will just make sure Cliff's ready. Cliff will give him a nod or a thumbs up, and then Nigel will just nod his head, put the power up, and off they go.
The wings aren't giving as much lift after takeoff than would do in a Spitfire.
Very, very good question.
It's a fantastic feeling, really. You're part of this moving display that's happening very quickly, and actually you haven't got time to think, well, how do I do it? You just get on with it and do it, and it's tremendous, tremendous.